Welcome to this explainer. Now, if you've ever worked in an environment where blame somehow travels way faster than the truth, you are absolutely going to want to stick around for this. Today, we're breaking down episode 18 of Office Drama Stories, treating it as a real-world case study in corporate accountability. We're going to look at exactly how a massive, perfectly orchestrated corporate cover-up unraveled completely by accident.
So, let's set the scene and dive right into the chilling reality at Northbridge Strategy. The environment here? It's incredibly tense. A major HR complaint just escalated, and you know what happens in toxic offices, right? Instead of the place getting more honest, everybody just got a whole lot more careful. Our main subject, Maya Chen, has figured out a really hard truth. When people are desperately trying to control a narrative, the smallest, most insignificant record suddenly becomes the loudest witness. The real danger isn't usually some huge screaming match in the hallway. It's quiet. It's a hidden browser tab, a missing case number, or, as we're about to see, something someone literally tried to throw away.
Now check this out. This seemingly harmless piece of trash was accidentally left behind inside a folder of printed audit materials by a colleague named Sophia, and it is about to blow this entire cover-up wide open. I mean, it's just a crumpled receipt with a timestamp and a few names on it. But to Maya, somebody who has learned the hard way not to trust clean surfaces or overly polished project updates, this receipt is a massive red flag. She isn't just looking at trash, she's looking at the loose thread in a very, very expensive corporate sweater.
Which brings us right into Section 1, a dangerous, harmless receipt. To really understand this, you have to feel the air in the room at Northbridge Strategy. Following that HR complaint we talked about, the office basically split right down the middle between fear and truth. You've got the management team, Claire West, Daniel Reed, and Ethan Cole, and they are watching everything. Their words, their reports, the reactions of people in the room, they're just trying to calculate which side is going to cost them less. The anxiety is palpable. But Maya, she's not playing the politics game. She's watching the evidence. Because when you're in a workplace that rewards absolute confidence way more than actual truth, you've got to look at the boring operational details that everybody else is ignoring.
And this is brilliantly illustrated when her colleague Leo comes to her desk. He brings up this tiny, almost invisible system mismatch on his laptop. Most people would totally brush off a little tech glitch. But Leo? He's holding his laptop like it's a ticking time bomb. Maya doesn't panic. She just calmly opens her notebook and relies on this exact investigative framework. What changed, who changed it, and who benefits. It's basically become their unofficial department survival guide. They don't just ask what's broken, they ask who is actually profiting from the breakage.
Let's see how leadership handles this in Section 2, the culture of silence.
This is a masterclass in how speed protects power. Watch closely how these managers operate when they feel threatened. They immediately try to rush to blame before anyone can even open the evidence. Daniel jumps in right away to belittle it, calling it personal trash and telling people not to be conspiracy theorists. Claire uses that terrifyingly polished corporate calm to frame the whole thing as just a minor concern, letting the room do the judging for her. And Ethan, he demands a quick explanation, because he knows full well that in a toxic office, quick guarantees the summary will be incomplete. They are literally trying to suffocate the investigation before it can even breathe.
But Maya is completely unfazed. She refuses to give them that quick summary without proof. Instead, she delivers this absolute knockout of a response that just silences the entire room. When Daniel insists they can't ignore patterns, Maya hits back with, "Patterns are useful when they are based on facts. Otherwise, they're just rumors wearing a tie." Wow. I mean, you can practically feel the temperature drop in that conference room. It's such a cinematic moment because nobody in leadership wants to hear that sentence. It demands a level of accountability they are completely unprepared to give.
So, what do the facts actually say? Let's trace it in Section 3, Tracing the Digital Footprint.
Maya and Leo bring in Noah from IT. He joins the meeting remotely, and what he drops on them is fascinating. He confirms the event wasn't completely wiped from the server. The system just stopped showing it in the default view. Leo, looking for clarity, asks, "So it was hidden?" Noah kind of hesitates, doing that IT thing where he says hidden isn't really the technical term. But Maya jumps right in and points out that actually, hidden is the only honest word for it. You know, the truth in an office setting often looks incredibly boring. A broken reference link, a weird value on a glowing monitor at 9 p.m. It looks like nothing, right? Until someone connects the dots.
And here is where the dots connect. Look at this undeniable digital overlap. The receipt showed that Claire and Daniel had dinner with a compliance liaison, and they paid the check at exactly 8:42 p.m.
Well, guess what? At that exact same minute, 8:42 p.m., the system logs show the missing audit file was accessed and suddenly renamed. Boom. It's not just a crumpled piece of trash anymore, is it? It is a verified, unarguable timeline of a cover-up. You can't debate timestamps, and the tension in that room just goes through the roof as the pattern locks into place.
Now the managers are cornered. Let's see their reaction in Section 4, the offline pressure play.
This is exactly when you see the corporate panic set in. They immediately deploy the buzzwords to try and make the truth disappear. Claire suddenly calls it process confusion. Daniel pivots to, it's just a misunderstanding. And Ethan, he drops the most classic toxic manager line in history. Let's solve it offline. Because we all know offline is where problems go to be buried. But Maya, she is relentless. She sits right there across from them, refuses to budge an inch, and insists they keep the conversation online, exactly where the problem was created.
So Claire tries another tactic. She tries to tone police Maya, basically telling her that her tone is unprofessional and unhelpful. But Maya shuts it down instantly. The tone did not change the record. And right here, this is the moment the culture actually starts to shift. Olivia from HR, who has just been sitting quietly this whole time, suddenly speaks up. And she agrees with Maya. She demands they stick to verifiable evidence. It's a subtle thing, but it's massive. For the first time, HR isn't just running cover for leadership shortcuts. Someone inside the machine is actually taking notes.
Which launches us straight into Section 5, the climax and turning point.
This is the peak of the entire sequence. Maya completely dismantles their timeline. She proves right to their faces that they knew the answer before they even pretended to ask the question. She says it plainly. First the record changed, then the blame moved, then the explanation arrived ready-made. You can visualize the exact second the power drains out of the management team. Claire stops interrupting, Daniel takes his hands off his keyboard, Ethan stops pretending this is just a normal Tuesday afternoon. They are trapped inside a timeline they were certain they had buried.
And then, the absolute knockout blow. It comes from an external witness, a member of the headquarters audit team who had been quietly listening in. They drop a single message. For clarity, I would like Maya's version included in the official record. That's it. That one sentence from an outsider does what 50 internal complaints couldn't do. It makes the truth operationally necessary. The managers can't spin this anymore. The blast radius just left the building.
Let's look at the final fallout in Section 6. Small receipts, expensive lies.
The dominoes fall fast. Headquarters immediately schedules an on-site review. Ethan starts barking orders like, document everything, preserve the source files, which is hilarious because it sounds procedural, but in this context, it basically sounds like a full confession. Olivia from HR declares it an official matter. The toxic politics just crumble under the weight of actual evidence. But notice what doesn't happen. Not a single person apologizes. Because, as we've all seen, a toxic office can churn out a defensive 30 slide deck in 2 hours, but a genuine apology, that takes months, if it ever comes at all.
In the aftermath, Leo just exhales. He looks like he's been holding his breath since the day he was hired. It perfectly captures that exhausting reality of fighting for what's right at work. He turns to Maya and asks, does it always feel like this when the truth wins? He's looking for some kind of relief, right? Hoping that catching the bad guys brings this overwhelming sense of joy. But workplace drama, it's rarely that clean or triumphant.
And Maya's response is so grounded. Exposing lies often feels terrible before it feels better. It's completely draining. The emotional labor is off the charts. But as she says, it isn't supposed to be comforting. It's supposed to be useful, because it draws a hard line in the sand. Look, Maya didn't magically fix the entire corporate culture in one afternoon, but she did make the next lie significantly harder to pull off. And in a building that runs on fear, that right there is the first real promotion anybody has gotten in years.
So, let's wrap this explainer up. If there's one thing to take away from episode 18, it's that true workplace safety, it doesn't come from those cheesy motivational posters in the break room. It comes from unrelenting accountability. A healthy environment absolutely demands that records can't just be quietly rewritten. It demands that witnesses can speak without fear of retaliation, and that leadership can't just hide behind, let's take this offline, the second facts get uncomfortable.
I'm going to leave you with this question to really think about. Look around your own office. Are you confusing silence with professionalism? Because when real accountability is missing, a harmless little team dinner receipt pulled from the trash might literally be the only thing standing between the truth and a very expensive lie. Pay attention to the quiet details, guys. They usually tell the actual story. Thank you so much for exploring this case study with me, and I challenge you to keep questioning the narratives around you.